So we're going to call the meeting. We're going to call the meeting to order. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for attending the Health Department Northwest Michigan Board of Health meeting. Jennifer, can we have a roll call, please?
Roloff. Here. Hankins.
Here.
McInnes.
Here.
Kuntz.
Here.
Pallarito.
Here.
Powers.
Here.
Rubing.
Here.
Marcus.
Here. Thank you to all the board members for attending as well. Review and approval of the meeting minutes from July 5th. I have a motion to
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
move by Commissioner Pallarito. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by, I heard Shirley first, Julie, so I'm going to take
That's
her.
fine.
Thank you. Seconded by Commissioner Roloff. Any discussion or corrections? Hearing none, Jennifer, can we have a roll call, please?
Rubing.
Yes.
Marcus.
Yes.
Roloff. Here. Hankins.
Yes.
McInnes.
Yes.
Kuntz.
Yes.
Pallarito.
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Okay. Review and approval of the agenda.
Charlie, did we want to add the RFP to the agenda or not? That we approved in committee?
Yeah, why don't we?
I think we should.
Yeah, we got through that pretty succinctly and efficiently. So if you want to add it after 7, make it 7A or something like that, VIIA.
Gentlemen, you're talking about request for proposal of legal services or
Yep.
for counsel and legal services.
Yes, sir.
Given that we have just received this document, were there any changes other than the change on section M on page 2?
Nope.
Were there any other changes that were made?
No,
Okay. If there were a number of different changes, I'd say let's have another month to review and mark up our drafts, but everybody does have a copy of the request for proposal of counsel and legal services. I gave a copy to Dan and each of the board members, including the change that was made on section M on page 2.
well, what we could do, Scott, is add it as a discussion, and if everybody's satisfied with the discussion, we could adopt it, but we could start by discussing it. So we don't have to make it an action item, but it could become an action item. I mean, that way we can do both. I mean,
Yeah. Well, let me ask this, would there be any objection from anyone on the board to making the request for proposal of counsel and legal services like 7A? Is there any objection from any board members? 4 of you just voted to
Right,
send it
yeah.
to us, so.
yeah.
Okay, I will make a note then, 7A. Will become the RFP for legal services. Are there any other amendments or changes to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Second,
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Let's have a roll call vote, please.
yes.
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 Yes. All right, next on the agenda, item number 5 is public comment. I'm going to preface this again with the rules. The availability, excuse me, the
Mr. Chairman.
availability. Sir,
We did put in the public rules that we don't have to read them every time, but you may read them if you want. I'm looking around the room and I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces, so I'm not sure that there isn't very many people here that haven't heard them. I'm not.
well, and I think.
I'm not gonna
part
tell
of
you
the
what to
agenda-
do,
No. I appreciate that.
Yeah, because the very last sentence is the Board of Health expects that each person desiring to speak at the meeting will have read and will comply with the rules.
I think you guys don't want to hear from me.
We did miss you,
And
but
that's
we-
okay. That's all right, folks. Let's move on. Is there anyone from the public that would like to speak? I do have two persons listed. And we'll cover those two first, and then we will open it to any further public comment. Ms. Colbita. Okay, that's fine. Ms. Moore? Okay. Thank you, ladies. Any further members of the general public that would like to address the board? Hearing none. Item number 6 is our health officer position. And we did approve a job description at our last meeting. Dan, do you want to address this in any way?
I can just give a brief summary. So the job description was approved by the board. However, after that meeting, realized that there was not an approval to post the position. In that, I guess that's really why this item is on the agenda, is just to get the board's approval to create a position posting and post it out to the public, or out to the various
Okay,
areas where we would want to solicit
right.
candidates, right?
So in other words, we approved the job description. Now let's get at it.
I believe that's what I'm saying.
Okay. What's the intent of the board? Are we prepared to post the permanent health officer position? I'll hear from anybody that has input.
What services are we using, or what what is there a professional site that we utilize, or?
Yes, so the professional site is the Michigan Association of Local Public Health is that's the Michigan site. We would have to do a little research on the national, American Public Health Association to see, what costs are involved for posting on that venue. I mean, we routinely post in Indeed, which you can do for free, but you do have to pay if you want it a little bit, better, I guess, posting. I don't know exactly how it works, but
There's no cost to post it though to the MDHHS.
for MELF, for Michigan Association of Local Public Health, there's no cost. We just
Okay.
send it to them, and everybody that's a member of MELF, or anybody that's even not a member, you can go to the MELF website and see the job posting.
Okay. Mr. Rubin, you have a question?
Yeah. Dan, I'd just like to hear from you. How's it going for you? How's filling in going? You've had a couple months now.
Mhm.
You're learning the ropes. What's your input? Do you want us to get this posted ASAP, or are you happy where things are now? Give us a little feedback.
I appreciate that question, but I don't want to throw Dan under the bus. I appreciate, and I guess my thought is on that if you have a question that you'd like to talk with Dan about, perhaps after the meeting, I think that would be a more appropriate scenario than to kind of throw Dan under the bus here and make him respond to that in a public meeting.
That's fine.
Okay, and I would say that that I'm spilling stuff all. Sorry, that's not what I would say. Well, I would say that Dan has not specifically stated to me that he would be interested in pursuing the permanent position. I have absolutely no qualms about Dan if he were to want to seek this position. He's a known entity, and he's been a good guy to work with, and he's been very professional and thorough in the way that he has done things. And I think that speaks well to him should he decide, but he may not want to seek that position. I don't know that he's come to that determination in his own mind yet. So I think given, I appreciate your question, and I appreciate your desire to know how things are going for Dan, but
No, I appreciate. We had a similar discussion in a different vein in Antrim County, so I think your advice is spot on.
Okay, Mr. Marcus.
I do have one hope. I'd like to make it as easy as possible for anybody who's searching, and I think our website alone should have an easy, obviously click, connect to apply on our health department website. In addition to any other source we use, because they might want to scan around and look at staff and look at programs and stuff that they may be interested in. So if it's an easy click, very obvious, don't have to make it look for it, I think that'd be great. I hope we don't go down the path of trying to hire somebody to do a headhunter type thing, because that's very expensive. And I'd like to see where we are first before we go down that path. I like to utilize all our state associations. I'm a member of MAC. We have a health committee. We're very active. So I would really hope that we reach out to Michigan Association of Counties along with the health professionals.
Do we want to, I'll throw this out for further board discussion. Do we want to give a specific list where we would like to see this position posted? Because I think now is the time to make that determination. If we say to staff, post a position tomorrow, it's a fair question for them to say, okay, where? And Mr. McInnes.
Jairus and I were having a conversation earlier, and Rob's got some experience with this. All of those ideas are useful, except the question becomes, if I see the job posting, where and to whom do I send my application? And my first concern is going to be privacy. And we have to understand that. I would suggest, I mean, the dialogue you folks had was right on, that we ask you as the chair to have a private conversation with Dan within the next couple of weeks to think about what could happen right now. And then after that conversation takes place, we would then have to decide to post it and how to post it. The cost, I mean, there are a bunch of logistical issues typically involving privacy and sorting out candidates that has to be done typically by somebody you pay. And you spent 18,000 in Otsego, and you did that in Antrim. No, excuse me, you haven't decided yet. That's right. We escaped it by promoting our assistant administrator to administrator at our May meeting, and we did it 5 minutes after our administrator retired, and we saved ourselves money. So anyway, if others don't object, I would suggest start with a conversation between you folks, hearing what others have said here, and then we would decide, how we get this process done, typically involving a consultant.
I appreciate that input, Charlie, and I think I appreciate too the intent there to make this as efficient as possible. Mr. Marcus had.
Yeah, I just, as far as the application process and the collection of applications is where I'm interested in knowing more about and where we decide to go with. We have tried to avoid the complications at our county level over the applications and who got weeded out and such and so forth, which has created problems for us because they're like, wait, why didn't this person get an interview? We want to avoid that type of controversy as much as physically we can. So I think it'd be better that in addition to our interim health officer, 4 members of this committee have physically eyes on every single application
I think what Mr. McInnes was suggesting.
without spending $17,000 for a consultant.
Right.
We know, we know the parameters of what we put out. We know there has to be what they have to meet these conditions. We don't have to pay somebody to tell us what we already submitted, what we expect.
So I think what we could do, if this would satisfy the board. If we Well, I guess it depends if we're going to post the position today. I appreciate what Mr. McInnes was referring to. I think we can first, if and when we do post it, we can make the applicants because I hold the chair, we can make them respond to the health department, attention to myself. And then Jennifer and I can compile packets for everyone, if this is the route that we decide to take. And you can review the applications. We need to look at how we are going to go about the interview process. If we're going to have a full board that's going to interview, if we're going to have a select number of board members that are going to interview. We need to consider some type of rating system that is unbiased and straight across the board for the interview process as well. But before we get to any of that, we have to make the world know that we're looking to hire a public health officer. So, Mr. Coons.
Shouldn't we have the process in place before we post the position?
I don't know.
I kind of would echo that. I think you should have a conversation with Dan and with our Jennifer. We have a human resources, don't
Yes.
we?
Yep.
With human resources and say, I don't think anybody's saying that we shouldn't post the position, but let's not put the cart in front of the horse. Let's have some thought and some conversation. And then you can come back at the next board meeting and say, we talked about it. This, you can have either a game plan or you can have plan 1 and plan 2. And
I think ultimately, sir, if you wanna, when we did our administrator search, we kept it as an ad hoc committee. So it was not a open to the public meeting to sort through the consultant. All the commissioners gave what they were looking for and gave that way we had points to score them on, score the applications on. So as they came in, the agency looked to see if they had a master's degree, look, so on and so forth, and check the boxes. Then those applicants came before the ad hoc committee to be weeded through. Then those went before the full board for an interview. That way, that kept those private. And if they wish to withdraw at any time through the process, they still could and remain, anonymous from their current employers. That also allowed the county not to touch or have a hands-on through the process of the applicant. And it's something to think about, whether you want to open it up, and you'll probably restrict some of your applicants because they probably will lose their jobs or put them in jeopardy. And so they may not want to apply.
Well, I think it makes sense for us to, I think it makes sense for Dan and I and our HR representative to have a meeting and make a determination. We don't have to post this position today. We have the benefit of still having the interim spot for a few more months, certainly, and potentially we could extend that interim spot as well. So I would like to make sure that we do this as professionally as possible and as thoroughly as possible. We employ someone in HR that should be able to give us some further direction there. So if it's okay with the board, I would like to see us perhaps table or adjourn this particular agenda item. If we table it, we have to pick it up the next time around.
You have to pick a date,
We have to
yeah.
pick it back up in September. Or I know everybody likes special meetings at the Board of Health.
Oh, I knew it.
Couldn't help myself, Charlie.
Yeah.
But you know, if we put this off and I have an opportunity to sit down and talk with Dan and Laura Kemp, I believe it is.
Yes.
Okay. If the three of us have an opportunity to talk in the next week or so and we have more of a process in place, I think that makes sense for us then to discuss this in September.
Can I make a
You can.
comment? Yeah, I would just say, I think that's a really good idea. I am not, this, my discussion or my, wanting to put this on the agenda was not in any way like I need to get somebody hired so I can get out of this position. I'm perfectly, things are going well and, I'm not in any big hurry. So I think doing it right is the right way to go and taking our time and, doing things, running it through the right processes. And so as far as that goes, I just wanted the board to know that, that's the case with me. I'm not in any big hurry either. So.
Right. You're satisfied with the way things are right now.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And whether or not you apply is something to be determined down the
Correct.
road. Okay,
Right. Correct.
very good.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
I would like to go on record as saying I am totally against hiring a headhunter. We did that in Gaylord, Otsego County. We spent a lot of money and we ended up hiring a very fine person, basically from within. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Ms. Powers, and I appreciate that. I don't think any of us are inclined to spend a great deal of money on a recruiter at this point. And I think there are some steps that we can go through to come up with a process and come back at this in September and have more of a game plan going forward. I don't want us to do it halfway. I want us to be thorough and professional in the way that we go about things. Mr. Marcus.
There is the one thing is that we all know it has to abide by the health code. So we know the checklist. is very
Right,
simple, 'cause
and
we-
I think it's a valid point, and I'm glad you brought this back up. In our job description are the requirements from the state.
So it
you know,
makes it
for-
rather basic for us to
Exactly.
weed through those who don't meet that qualification.
And that sounds like it should be common sense.
Yeah.
But in my previous employment, I had people apply for a police officer job that were that had no idea what being certified as a police officer even entailed.
Everybody should have
So-
a Roscoe in their county.
Roscoe, all right. We're
We
not gonna,
might, Scott, at some point also talk with, I hate to say it, but Raymond, somebody who's actually done this, because you're dealing with the Open Meetings Act, privacy concerns that will be really serious, and that's what Rob was hinting at, is that,
But I think if we talk with our legal counsel, that they actually define that.
okay,
Yeah, so,
yeah,
it's just making sure we
right,
do our due diligence before we throw it out there, I think.
right. Because the committee is gonna be interesting. In order to avoid the Open Meetings Act, you're going to have 3, and we've got 4 counties, so that's gonna leave 3 counties. As long as I'm one of the 3, I'm fine. But I'm not running for reelection, and so let's say that we. What?
No,
I'm-
Charlie, you can actually have 4 because we have 8. You have to have one more than quorum.
So you could do 4?
You
we
can-
could do 4. We
Oh,
could have,
okay.
yeah,
So you
I,
could do
yeah,
the Personnel
Okay.
committee, it's.
Yeah, the personnel committees. Well, we do post that as a meeting though, so,
Yes.
well, let's
You-
make sure that's the case, because
session.
also in our bylaws say that. They kind of, well, let's read our bylaws again, make sure that we're. Okay, I guess
Yeah.
legal counsel. would be
Sneak
fine.
consultation.
well,
Yeah.
Dan, go ahead.
Well, go ahead, finish your,
Well, I was gonna
Thought.
say, that can be part of our, the meeting between Dan and myself and Ms. Kemp. We can make sure that we're complying with our current bylaws and make sure that, you know,
And I think in the current bylaws too, you can create create a special committee if you wanted to.
okay,
The other thing I was gonna say, I mean, this is the health officer position is contractual between the Board of Health and the health officer. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was some talk at one time about, you know, looking at that contract. And probably presumably, health officer coming in, whoever, you know, you wanted to hire may want to tweak that contract as well. So just food for thought, just throwing that out there.
okay. Thank you. Any further discussion on item number 6, the health officer's position?
So we're not tabling it. We're just gonna see what happens.
I think, well, it is on our current agenda. I think we do need to take some type of action.
Next month,
I-
we'll report back.
Yeah, if we table it today, we can pick it up again in September. And that would be appropriate under Robert's rules, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, depending what you want to do, I mean, you can table indefinitely too, and that means you pick it up when you want to, but
Well,
let's
right.
not, I don't have Robert's rules in front of me.
Right, no, I agree.
But I think you're gonna have something to report to us next month, so we can put it on the agenda for next month.
Okay. So I would entertain a motion to table the health officer position posting until the September meeting.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Powers,
I'll second.
seconded by Ms. Roloff. I think we can just do a voice vote here. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, tabled until September. Jennifer, you have that, correct?
Got it.
Okay. And Dan, you and I'll talk in the next day or so. Set up a good time.
Sounds good.
Item number 7, the Mansalona building discussion, Mr. Thurell.
Yes, so I put a memo in the board packets, just summarizing some conversations I've been having with Jerry Chase from the Northern Health Foundation, which is the subsidiary that basically we lease our buildings from until they revert to the county or whoever else they revert to. In this case, in Mansalona, it would revert to the Mansalona schools. We have some issues at that building. Right now, the immediate need is that the roof is leaking. There's been some additions put on that building over time. It's not the entire roof. In fact, I put a bid on your desk that says Birdco on the top, and it kind of highlights the area that is leaking and causing damage in the building right now. And that bid is coming in at with the interior repair at $49,649 from Birdco. So my conversation with Jerry is the bank has indicated willingness to amend loan documents that we currently have, and we can basically get a loan to take care of the roof. And we need to do this before, you know, winter sets upon us this season. So, and it would add about $600 per month to our existing loan. Really, you know, what we're looking at here too is possibly, we've been looking at this for about a year because of space concerns at the Mansalona building of putting an addition on. So we've been exploring that, adding 6 offices and doing some remodeling, the interior of the building, adding a bathroom for staff and a break room, various other things. And this would, if we incorporate that into the roof repair and everything else, we could refinance this, the building and push the reversion out to 2052 to get favorable financing. And that would essentially add about $1,000 a month potentially to our current payment. And just I know you guys have, guys and gals have read this. We do have some tenants in the building. There's a chance that we will be able to increase some square footage and collect a little bit more rent. I don't know exactly what that amount would be. It wouldn't be a whole lot. But one thing to consider is, since we reverted, the building in Bel Air reverted to Antrim County, we consolidated our space there in that Antrim County building in Bel Air to basically a little bit less than half the building is now the health department. And we had to consolidate some staff over to the Mansalona building, which made it a little bit even more crowded. So just really for the best use of space for staff and going forward at the Mansalona Family Resource Center, we would prefer to put the addition on and go that route just because of our space needs there. But like I said, the immediate need is we definitely need to take care of the roof. Else we're going to have more damage in the building and more costs to consider going forward. And I do have Jerry Chase is online. So if we have any questions that he might be able to answer about the finance or anything, we can bring him up and he's prepared to speak on that.
So just for my own education here, Dan, the building that we're currently in Mansalona will revert to Mansalona Public Schools.
Correct.
Okay, and that currently is set to go when?
2042.
2042.
Correct.
And if we restructure this financing, it goes to 2052 before it would revert to them. Is that correct?
Right. And we have not, we wanted to bring it to the board first to see what direction the board would allow us to go. We have not had that conversation with Mansalona schools yet as to, to get their blessing or, see if they would agree to that. So depending on the outcome of this, this meeting, that's would be the next step.
Everybody's got their hand up. Mr. Pallarito.
Dan, how much, I guess, two questions. How much space do they rent and do they have a contract with? Is it with us for that space or is it with the schools or what? How does that work?
So the school does not, Northern Health Foundation owns the building right now and we lease it from them. And then we sublease to those other entities like Catholic Human Services, Women's Resource Center, and Community and Schools.
Okay.
So right now the school has no ownership in the building. It is on school property. And then that's, right now in 2042, that building would revert to Mansalona schools. And likely what would happen is that they would lease back to us. Similar to what Antrim County does or similar to Charlevoix County. I am not aware, our staff are not aware of any of the school having any, and it's a ways out, obviously, any need for that building. But that's something we need to have a conversation with the superintendent there.
How much space do they occupy for those three entities?
I don't know, maybe if anybody else can talk to that.
Can speak to that a little bit. There. I don't know the exact square footage and we could definitely look at that because it is in the contracts that we have with them. The Women's Resource Center and Catholic Human Services just each have one office space there where they see clients in that community. Communities and Schools is ever growing and that is their centralized office space. So they have I want to say 5 or 6 office spaces. We share all of those common areas, of course, together, and they have recently received some funding that's more long-term and they're looking to grow and increase their staff and have reached out asking if there's additional space that they could utilize as well. But we could get you the square footage.
I'm just wondering, we're talking about adding 6 office spaces and I didn't know how many that they occupy and.
Yeah,
if it-
absolutely. And the 6th, so we had to like convert a small conference room into 2 offices when we took our staff from Bel Air and reduced down to Mansalona. And so that's our staff. That's a couple of the offices that would be allocated to them. We have a supervisor that the communities and schools would like to have. So the space is allocated and definitely needed. We've really noticed when we took away that small conference room, the ability to meet in groups of 3 to 5 really diminished because offices aren't big enough to do that. But the large conference room, being that it's the Mansalona Family Resource Center, it's a community building. There's a lot of entities that use that space. And so that's not always available. And so these small group meetings are really a challenge to pull together.
Mr. Marcus, you had your hand up.
Well, I'm gonna change directions of my questioning because I got answers that I probably would ask that question anyway. So my one question is gonna go towards the building, the one, did you get any other, bids?
So that one is just for the roof, right now. And then I think in the board packet, there was 2 bids for the actual building, addition and yeah, there's one is a pretty, the Birdco bid's pretty detailed, but the other one is not very detailed from
Yeah.
Sunrise Construction, so.
Okay, no wonder I missed it.
Right. Definitely drastically different, but
Is it possible that we could ask Women's Resource or Catholic Human Services to find somewhere else? I mean, we need space.
mhm.
I feel like they collectively pay $754 a month. They aren't paying what it costs. That doesn't even cover maintenance, but furnace, roof, whatever. I realize they contribute to the community,
Mhm.
but is there somewhere else? I mean, there's more buildings around. I mean, you hate to kick somebody out, but if you need the space and it's going to cost you $775,000 to build more space,
Well, it's not gonna, just to correct you there, it's around $400,000 for the addition. That would be, the 775 would be on top of what we already owe, like
Oh.
refinancing.
so
Right.
so what we owe now plus 400,000 gets you to the
Right.
775.
Yeah, and includes the roof repair
Right.
and the repairs on the interior of the building.
I
But-
have no problem fixing the roof, and I think we should do that before winter, but I guess I'm not big on building right now personally. I kind of think the economy's in a little bit of a downward projection now, and I think we would be able to do this cheaper next year if it's something we want to do. Also, just so everybody knows, the Mansalona Public Schools has a pretty big bond proposal on the ballot today. And that is going to determine a lot which way they go. If that gets turned down, they're going to be relooking at options of what they want to do. If it gets go ahead, I think they're going to be building some new buildings themselves. So that's a big thing for them today, and we'll know tonight whether it passes or fails. So
If, Dan, if we were to go with simply the roof repair today, what would be our funding options?
I think the funding option would be basically to restructure our current loan. Which, and I believe it is, has 10 years left on it. And Jerry might be able to answer this question better than me, but based on what he gave me, which I put in the memo, that would cost about $600 a month. If we added it to our current loan structure.
It was a pretty compelling case, Scott, about why the major project needs to be done in terms of using a doctor, looks like the doctor wants to say something.
I just wanted to add, I think, and if there were buildings available, it could be looked at for expansion, but that whole building in Mansalona is the history of it is, we were always in Bel Air because that was the county seat, and it was clear that a lot of our clients were in the Mansalona region, and that part of the county needed our services to a greater degree, and that Mansalona Family Resource Center is that building. Really, the whole idea is for it to be somewhat of a one-stop shopping. It's a place that people know about where they can go to get assistance for all sorts of things. So I think it really helps, Catholic Human Services and Women's Resource. They only have one office there, but having them there really provides a lot of, there can be those warm handoffs with clients that need families that might need services of the health department and the dental clinic. And they also have services or needs that those services can provide, and having everybody under the same roof is, I think, really advantageous for the community, for the people that we serve there. And I know construction it's obscene right now, but I know the family health and community health is really busting at the seams there, and they've made it with our taking away from our Bel Air office. I think the space is really needed, and generally as the economy goes down, the need for our services goes up. So I do think it's important to serve the citizens there in Antrim County, especially in Mansalona.
And I will, just one thing to add to that, which I detailed in here too, is that our cost for space in Bel Air went from 4,000 to 2,000. So the additional cost that it would be to do the building addition would be more than covered by that savings.
Mr. Marcus.
I think what we're being asked to tackle in one board meeting is a little bit too much for me. This is a big process, a big undertaking, and I realize interest rates are going to continue to go up. And there is some urgency just because of that, because I believe it's going to double from what we are now. But I believe we should definitely vote today, fix the roof, and continue down the path is better understanding all the impacts and the future costs and the consequences on both directions. So I'd like to make a motion just to accept the bid to repair the roof.
I'll second that.
It's been moved by Commissioner Marcus, seconded by Commissioner Rubing, that we,
And I want to clarify, I just need a clarification.
I'll get there because we're
Okay.
gonna have more discussion on this, but that we repair the roof. I'm assuming, and I should not assume, but we're referring to the Birdco bid of $49,649.
Yeah, to clarify, that's correct. Yes.
Okay.
I think that it would be helpful. I mean, I read the text and the text described a pretty grim situation using an exam room as an office at the same time. I'm wondering if we would put this on the agenda for next month with some photographs to show us what the facilities look like to help us appreciate the magnitude. And I presume that the roof project was part of a whole refinancing so that all of the costs were going to be refinanced in one mortgage. So if we do this in two steps, I think that fractures it just a little bit or makes it a little more challenging, I presume. We don't want to refinance 2 months in a row.
Right. And I don't know, and that would be something, I don't know if we want to have Jerry answer that question about, if it was done in two steps, what that would look like. Because really him being the director of the Northern Health Foundation is with the financing piece and all that. He's really the one to answer those questions.
I'm happy with
Mhm.
to have Jerry address this. We do have a motion that's been seconded on the floor. As part of further discussion, we can have Mr. Chase talk specifically about that. I would throw out that for 3 different entities to rent office space from us for $754 is a cheap date, ladies and gentlemen. I don't know where you would find any office space for that much for a single office.
That was my concern too.
That seems, and I appreciate what Dr. Myerson said. It's nice to be able to have all 3 of those entities there as part of our same facility. But let's be realistic, folks. This is
We're giving it to them.
we're giving it to them.
Yeah.
I don't know that you could pay for the lights and the heat for $250 a month in in a building. But if you'd like to have Mr. Chase come on, that'd be fine with me.
Sure. I mean, he would be able to speak to that question about, I think that Charlie raised about the different, loan options and the two different steps. We have.
Oh, he was looking at the TV.
Will he come up on this screen over here? This can be on. Is he on?
Is Mr. Chase going to be joining us?
Jerry, can you unmute? Technical difficulties.
Computers are great
Right,
unless
can you
they're
hear me
not.
now?
Yes, thanks,
Okay,
Jerry.
fine. I was, this is a different version of Zoom than what I had before, and it wasn't allowing me to tune in. Two things. I wish to note at the discussion about the low rent for the participating agencies, that the whole concept of that building was to provide a community center. And remember, the land was provided to us with no cost. So when you're looking at low rates and low this and low that, part of that was on the part of the school, because the schools wanted to have those services available to their students and their families as readily as possible. And the location is right next to one school and really in the middle of their entire educational complex there.
Jerry, if I can interrupt you just a moment there. This is Scott Hankins, the board chair. When were these rates set?
I have no idea. This is not, this was something that is between the health department and the subtenants. And it probably was set some time ago and it probably has not been adjusted. I would suggest possibly it should be some type of adjustment or, just for the time involved, but I'd be gentle in doing it because I think you wouldn't, I'm wearing my former hat as the former health officer there. The problems of that community were just unbelievable. And the location of that building has done wonders, I believe, at least during the time I was there. And we always had a good portion of the building occupied and used by other community agencies. And but I think the rates were set a long time ago and they probably could be revisited, but not with the idea that we substitute that space. I think that'd be going backwards. And there's the Northern Health Foundation has got involved with a couple other community health centers. Mansalona, we just kind of backed into it, and those have the same issues, but in all cases nobody wants to go back because you get everybody working together. You got people that have a lot of families have a lot of different problems, and they can get someplace one time a month or so, maybe, if the car works, and to get everything done at one location really makes a difference in a lot of situations. But I don't want to enter into that debate. I just wanted to make that comment that the land has been provided to us to provide the community health center or a community resource center. And that necessarily does involve other things. That's the partnership, that's the understanding with the schools. So I just want to caution on that. There are some questions about the financing. What I've done is we do a lot of different buildings. I'm in constant contact with the banks relative to where the interest rates are. A lot of things are negotiable, and we generally are considered a pretty reliable customer, because we have, we had a one-time 60 buildings that we developed over the years. We're probably down to about a third of those now, because many of them have reverted back to the counties or the entities that provided us the property. And on all these have been going good, and we never missed a payment. So we rank pretty high with the banks in terms of credit worthiness. In terms of bids, I'm in constant discussion with builders. We've had very good experience with Birdco. It's very difficult right now to get a firm bid because of the difficulty of predicting prices, both for supplies and for labor. And Birdco, because they're active and doing a lot of construction activities, they have a more sure supply than some other sources. I believe the price that they proposed on us, based upon everything I understand about cost of construction these days, is a good price, both for the roof. Clearly for the roof, there's no question, and for the proposed work they were going to do inside, and the addition, I believe, is a very competitive price, and I doubt very much if you're going to improve upon that. But that's the business of the Northern Health Foundation to do this. You're not borrowing the money, we are. You're signing the lease that provides us the resource to pay that. So and it's important that we keep those functions separate. So, and it shouldn't appear that you're approving that particular bid, because the bid wasn't made out to you guys. It was made directly to the Northern Health Foundation, or actually NHF Sub Charlevoix is the holding company. So NHF Sub Charlevoix also leases to you the Gaylord building and the buildings in East Jordan. So we you're in some of our other buildings, we have another subsidiary that controls the Emmett building, and I think that's it right now. It's kind of hard to remember them all. But anyways, are there some particular questions I could respond to?
Yes, please. So we looked at doing this, or have talked about.
Matt, I
doing
think
this.
you need to move your microphone up.
Thank you. Thank you. So this motion we have on the table is to do this in a one-step process with the possibility of looking at a second step later. Do you see any efficiencies in that, or any reason that we would do that, or any way that that would be a fiscally responsible thing to do? It seems to me if you're going to do something, and it's almost better to do it in one shot. Could you talk a
Well,
little
we
bit
need to
about
get
that?
that roof done. And by the time we put everything together, there's a possibility we'll miss the opportunity to do it before winter. And I've experience with that particular building. We built it during the winter. That was a disaster that we had. We started the construction there in just before Halloween, and Halloween weekend, we had a 20-inch snowfall, and we had the building framed in, and the roof unfortunately on the east side of the building. If everybody's seen that building, it's got a high pitched roof, because we had that covered with plywood, that basically trapped the snow. And we had essentially filled in the entire building with 5 to 6 inches, 5 to 6 feet of snow. And then we hoped for a thaw, or the builder hoped for a thaw. It was it was his risk. He's the one that did it, not us. And that never came. So finally in January, he had to hire a crew just to dig it out and haul it away and haul away the snow. But anyway, so we know that it's in a bad area. It's amazing the roof has stood that many years, has stood as many years as it has, because it should have been replaced about 3 or 4 years ago from the pictures that I've seen. But the point is, we need to get that done now, and just going through the bureaucratic process, if the other part done, just takes some time. We would have to, but I think what I was hoping you guys would do is authorize Dan to enter into discussions with the school, so we can see where they're at. And if they probably will take a meeting or two to get to the point where they would approve extending the occupant, the terminate, the reversion date. I'd like to see us have so many years. I'd like to have the whole thing arranged on a 20-year financing cycle, so the cost will be relatively low. Even that cost estimate I gave you has got a pretty high interest rate, is because we don't know what the interest rate will be in a month or two, but it may not be as bad as we think it, as bad as we imagine it could be. But I think we need to be we need to be talking to the schools now as to whether there would be agreeable to extend us to have the building for another 10 years. I strongly suspect they will want us to do that. We have made a real difference in terms of a lot of issues that have affected education in Mansalona. And I know over the years, the people have appreciated that. I don't know the current superintendent. I don't know their reviews. So who knows? But I think we need to know that as soon as we can, and then we can formalize the other steps of this for I'm hoping that by no later than the November 1st meeting, maybe by the October 1st meeting. If the schools say yes, then we can put together, and we get a formalized proposal from the bank relative to the new financing with a fixed rate. I would try, banks will not give a fixed rate on commercial loans, so we have to do arrange a derivative, a swap arrangement, which we would which we do for a lot of buildings of this nature. But it just takes some time to put all that paperwork together and to have approvals from everybody to do that. But if you guys could approve Dan to contact the schools to see their interest, I think my objective would be have a formal proposal to you guys by the October 1st meeting, so that we have hope of having the construction started before the true onset of winter.
So my concern was that we might lose some efficiencies in doing this in 2 steps. But if I understand you correctly, you're okay with, I think it's a good idea to approve the roof work now.
Yeah.
Figure out the rest later. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yeah, there's a slight amount of cost, but we can actually, if we know that it's likely this to happen, we can put the roof on in such a way that we can almost build in the framing, where the addition is going to come in is where the only cost inefficiency would be. And where they're going to merge, we could probably do some work to make that very, very simple at the time. But if not, it still is a relatively small area where we'd have to take off the new roof and attach the new you know, where the addition gets attached. It just won't, it just isn't that big of a deal when you look at the overall thing. But I think even that we can make disappear if we know we believe that we're going to make this a whole project. If you authorize this, you know, they're not going to be roofing it tomorrow. The idea is they'll probably be roofing it sometime in October because it's got to get scheduled. This is not even a roofing job, and this is not a small job. It's a large roof.
Jerry,
Mhm.
this is Dan. I believe that the roof, it's not the entire roof.
Right.
At the Birdco proposal, so it's just the area they're proposing is not the entire roof, and I don't think the addition would be even affected by it.
No, Dan, it is basically the entire roof with the exception of the addition for the dental addition. That doesn't need to be replaced. So everything else would be replaced. And where he has highlighted, that's the area where they have to do the, probably replace, rebuild the understructure of the roof. That's part of the
Okay.
cost.
Yeah, that wasn't real clear in the
Yeah,
bids.
no,
Thank you for
that-
clarifying that.
Yeah, no, it's a whole roof. The whole roof definitely needs to be replaced.
Okay, I'm confused now too, because looking at the photos, it says remove and replace shingles and roof underlayment in blue sections only, nothing
Right.
on other faces.
We don't believe the roof underlayment has to be done in the balance of the roof area. If you looked at the color picture, it shows all the blue areas in that. And of course, it just shows the one side, but the other side's the same thing. All of that, or the entire roof would be replaced except the dental area. And it's just that relatively small area where the damage has occurred. And there is budget, there's some money there if there's an occasional board that occasional 4x8 has to be replaced. Those would be covered in that cost, but they're probably the majority of those from what they looked at from underneath seem fine.
All right, thank you. Mr. McInnes, go ahead.
So it sounds like, if I understand this, we could authorize the roof repair. But what Jerry is also asking for is authorization to enter into discussions with the school about the larger project. Not to embark on it, but to engage in discussions about extending the time period and other things. Did I understand that correctly?
Yes, exactly.
Okay, well, I think we're good.
Okay, and we, Mr. Chase, we do have a motion on the floor pending right now. You're actually part of the additional discussion for that. So the motion was to authorize repair on the roof.
Would it make
And-
sense to amend the motion? Or the
We
motion?
could have
to,
actually two motions.
Well,
Yeah, why don't we just do two motions?
I think we should do two motions. We have, the first motion was made to authorize repair of the roof with the Birdco bid of $49,649. Is there any further discussion right now before we vote on that motion? Mr. Rubin?
That's the only quote we have. Are we in trouble for not getting another quote or?
If I understood Mr. Chase correctly, Northern Health Foundation got the bids and we're just being asked to authorize that.
Okay.
And they're kind of in charge of the structure. Is that correct, Mr. Chase?
Yes, that's exactly right. But you can be assured that I have had discussions, not necessarily for that particular roof job, but with other builders, design builders, for anything that we do.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion from the board? Ms. Roloff?
I guess I have a problem sitting here listening to this because, I mean, here we're the health department or board. And we got somebody else way out telling us things we can do. And it's like, don't we have people here that can kind of, I don't think I have to go out of state to get somebody to help me. Is what I'm saying. I think it all should be local. We have somebody local, and maybe this is set up way back when, and I'm thinking back 20 some years ago. I don't know if I'm right or not, Mr. Chase, but it's like, okay, I'm gonna be sitting at home pretty soon.
Shirley,
For me, yes.
you're the only one on that board that I know.
Right. I've been
And
around a long
you
time.
can't get any more local than the Northern Health Foundation. It's headquartered in Alpena. That's where our books are kept. And all the board members are health officers from Northern Michigan. And we're extremely local.
And this company, Birdco is, if I'm understanding the documents correctly, are from Traverse City is.
Yes, they're in Traverse City and they would probably be using a contractor. They've done work for us in the past. They generally use a contractor that's headquartered out of Gaylord. So again, they're and the person I'm dealing with in terms of the cost, he's located in Harbor Springs. So these are definitely Northern Michigan folks that are involved in this.
Well, I guess I look at it like, I'm gonna be retired and I'm thinking, my goodness, you should have been retired a long time ago. He's a little bit older, I think, than I am, maybe not, but
Well, I've been
it's,
retired for 11 years and I'm still active, so I have a
no
failed
idea.
retirement.
well, this is a department I have no idea that even around. I mean, you know, we are local, we're all over different townships or counties. But I was just really surprised to see that we're still waiting for somebody to tell us what to do. And that is the health department building.
Well,
Correct or
it,
not?
no, the health department doesn't own that building. The Northern Health Foundation does. And that's why we are speaking with Mr. Chase regarding,
It answered a lot of questions.
Okay. thank you. Anything further from the board? Jennifer, can you restate the motion? I think it's understood, but I want to make sure everybody is clear on what we're voting on. It's been moved by Mr. Marcus, seconded by Mr. Rubing.
Yep, to authorize the Health Department of Northwest Michigan to authorize Birdco and accept the bid to replace the roof, and we'll revisit the expansion later.
Let's stop it. Well,
Okay.
That wasn't the motion.
Correct. No, the revisiting the.
Oh, I'm
the
sorry. That was
expansion
gonna be
was
the
not
next
part
one.
of
Yeah,
the
okay.
initial motion. You're
We'll
right,
make
Charlie.
another motion, but that's
Okay.
separate.
All right,
Okay,
so-
sorry about that. Yep.
Can we put the bid amount into that? motion
Yep.
as well?
I've got $49,649.
Okay. Because we're spending money, we're gonna have a roll call vote.
Rubing,
Yes.
Marcus,
Yes.
Roloff,
Yes.
Hankins,
Yes.
McInnes.
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Calorito,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Okay. That addresses the roof and interior repair. We need a second motion to authorize Mr. Thorell to contact Mansalona Public Schools regarding the potential expansion of this building and the potential to move the reversion clause or to rewrite the reversion clause from 2042 to 2052. Did I state that correctly, Dan?
Yes.
Mr. Chase, would you be in agreement with that statement? If you're still there? Crickets.
Did
Okay.
that include the expansion project itself, right? Is that what your intent was in that motion?
My intent in the motion was to authorize Mr. Thorell to reach out to Mansalona Public Schools. They may say no. They may say, no, we're not going to give you the additional 10 years. But we have to at least
Mhm.
contact them to see if they're agreeable to that.
For the purpose of facilitating this expansion construction project.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Mr.
So
Marcus.
that is entering in a negotiation of sorts, obviously. It becomes, if you do this, we'll do that. And I can guarantee you that if they see a massive investment into a building, it's to their advantage to extend it. Or they get reverted back to us and they get the rental money from out of it. So obviously, they're gonna be more apt to say, yes, if you guys invest and build this stuff, and then we do that. But if you don't, no, we want to do it that. So I could tell you the answer to that right now. I mean, anybody who's in business can understand that. If someone's gonna invest money into a building that's gonna be yours, you're gonna say yes.
Well, unless they have, in 2042, they already have a plan for that facility. I'm not saying that they
So
do,
much
but
happens in 20 years. It's unbelievable.
I know, and we're talking about 30 years down the road.
We can't even make a plan for our county for 5, you know?
Okay, but are we in agreement as a board to authorize Mr. Thorell to reach out to them?
Yes.
So I need a
I
motion to
mean,
that
I'm-
effect. Mr. Rubin,
Yeah, I'm okay with him talking to him, but I'll tell you, to be totally honest with you, if we could take Jailhouse Cannabis and the other two down the road and turn them into something like this, we'd kill two birds with one stone, but all these problems are wound up together, unfortunately. And the one leads to the need for the other, it seems, but anyway.
so I'm still looking for a motion to authorize Mr. Thorell
You make it.
to contact.
I'll make the motion as you described it.
Moved by Mr. McInnes to authorize Mr. Thorell to contact Mansalona Public Schools regarding the possibility of expansion of this facility and to possibly change the reversion clause from 2042 to 2052. It's been moved by Mr. McInnes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Coons. Any further discussion from the board? Mr. Marcus?
I just believe that we're jumping the gun on making this request a little too early. We haven't even explored any community capacity foundation grants, stuff like that. We haven't looked at any financial ways of achieving our goal, let alone engaging in a conversation with a potential landlord in advance. I mean, we don't even have all the answers yet. We're gonna go there and ask for permission to do something. I just don't think it's a good time.
So
We don't even have the
passing
answers.
this motion doesn't preclude us from doing that, or
I
doesn't,
didn't hear you.
passing this motion doesn't preclude the board from doing that or our representative from doing
I
that.
just think it would result in a very short communication conversation if we didn't have any more answers.
We could always go back for more
It might be a
communication. if
wasted
we need it.
conversation. but we
Well,
should-
this is to benefit that Mansalona community, so it's not just a free enterprise, it's a community service that we're trying to fix, because it's got exam rooms being used as offices part-time, and people are on top of each other and having difficulty, if I'm not mistaken from what I've read here, that it's trying to make it a more usable facility for our services in
I'm
Mansalona.
gonna complete my thought because
Mr. Chairman, I have one. other
Hold on,
question.
Ms. Roloff.
I was
Mr. Mark.
still talking, but I just want to explain that when you make things like this, we're going through this in our own county. You just don't jump into it and just say, we're going to spend this much money, we're going to look for contractors and we have these grand goals. There's other things to consider. And we just found out about this today. And now today, we're going to make a motion to do something. I mean, wow, that's pretty good. I mean, it doesn't make
I
sense.
think we're gonna make a motion to explore the possibility of doing something. That's how I understand the
I'm just
motion.
curious to know whether or
If
not-
we're gonna
When
do
when he has a
something before we do it,
conversation
we're gonna
with,
have to
if
explore the
I'm
possibility.
that school and he came to me and said, why do you want us to extend it? Why? Well, because we need it and we potentially could invest this kind of money into it. Well, now you're talking about something we haven't agreed upon yet. So you're going to ask him to engage in a conversation that we haven't agreed it's going to happen yet. So what good is the conversation?
So would you prefer a motion that approved the work before we
I,
negotiate?
my opinion is that we need more information. We need to understand better what's going on in the buildings and the options we have as far as funding sources and partnerships. We
So-
haven't done anything of that yet. We're
So-
just talking about spending money.
This motion will lead to more information that we're gonna look at in the next meeting. And
Possibly,
we could,
I don't
we
know.
could,
I'm
we
just-
could have
I'm
other
just vocalizing
information
an
as
opinion on
well.
this. I just
but
don't
this
think, I
is
think it's
an
a wasteful
authorization to-
conversation.
Move forward to get some information that we potentially need. It's not an authorization to build anything.
It won't break the bank if we go ahead and let them do it. I don't care. I'm not gonna hang my hat on it. I'm just letting you know that I think it's a waste of time.
Okay, Ms. Rolla.
Well, I totally agree with Mr. DeMarcus for once. Are they going to?
Backhanded.
That's the second time, by the way.
No, I think you've got a point there, a good point. And I have one too. Are they going to increase the rent over there? For $750, you can't even get a room over here in Charlevoix, 1 bedroom for that. And I know, I looked for one for somebody all summer long and you couldn't find it. And it's $754.67 for rent. Man, I mean,
That-
somebody's making money and it's not me.
Well, surely that figure troubles me as well. And I think we can give Mr. Thorell direction to give us more information, like when those rates were set and how we can properly adjust the rental. Because if these were set 20 years ago or whenever the building was built and it's not been revisited since then, I could see easily where it would be $750 per entity per month. And that could certainly address some of our construction costs, but we have a motion and a second on the floor to authorize Mr. Thorell to contact Mansalona Public Schools about the possibility of expansion and changing our reversion date from 2042 to 2052. I'm guessing, Shirley, you and I won't be on this board by then.
I'm not, I won't.
Okay. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Jennifer, let's have a roll call.
Rolla,
No,
Hankins,
No.
McInnes,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes,
Valerito,
No.
Powers,
No,
Rubing,
No,
Marcus.
No.
Motion fails.
Okay.
Now, Scott, I just want to say that now that we've defeated that, we haven't solved the problem that caused us to come to the floor. So.
Well, we solved the problem of the roof repair,
Right.
which is why the initial motion we solved.
Right.
The expansion, I think ties into Shirley's point as well on looking at the current rental rates that we're charging. If we were to increase those rental rates, and I think that could easily be done, that might be a different source of income for the expansion.
Fine, but if I read the document and it was quite compelling. We haven't solved the problem of the inadequate facilities in Mansalona. I think the rent is a small component of that, but we haven't fixed the underlying problem. And the purpose of the discussion was to find a way to do some refinancing to pay for it. If there's no ability to refinance, the project isn't going to happen. And this was meant to be a threshold to say, can we do these certain things to facilitate a cost-effective way to do this work? I think the work still needs to be done if what I read is correct about those facilities being woefully inadequate. This was simply a means to pay for it. So if we don't investigate the means to pay for it, we did not cure the problem. We just left ourselves with the same problem we had and no solution other than a roof.
Well, potentially a drier set
Yeah,
of
that was
circumstances,
only-
but
that-
what I would say to you on that, Charlie, is if we were to authorize Dan to contact Catholic Human Services, the Women's Resource Center, and communities and schools and say, hey, we need to make a rental adjustment, and it's going to be X number of dollars per month. One or more of those agencies may say, you know what, we're going to look for housing elsewhere,
Well,
which could alleviate some of that office space problem.
so
however, as Dr. Meyerson pointed out, the reason they're in the building is to facilitate the needs of the client. So pushing them out in order to.
I'm
solve
not
one
suggesting we push
I
anybody
think
out.
Well-
the name on the building said like Family
Resource. Center.
Resource Center. And the name, the reason the name is there is so all those resources are in one place. And they're providing a much needed service to a vulnerable part of the community. We're not running a business here. This is not a for-profit enterprise. This is our job is to provide some services to the community. We have the funding to do that. My understanding of this proposal is it's actually a net savings to the Board of Health based on what we give. We're paying less in Bel Air and we're going to pay a little more in Mansalona, but the net is a savings. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes. Yeah. I
Yes.
mean, if you're looking at that way, we definitely are
And so if
paying
you
less in
if
Bel
you
Air.
really want to be fiscally responsible, then what you need to do is do this work in the most efficient way possible so that this organization and that facility can continue to run efficiently and provide the services that are needed in Mansalona. And so that's what, if you want to be fiscally responsible, that's what you do. And the way you be fiscally responsible in doing that is start investigating what needs to be done, what kind of agreements can we make, and how can we move this thing forward? And so just by trying to raise rent $200 a month, that's not going to solve anybody's problem. And it's a drop in the bucket, frankly.
Okay, Ms. Roloff.
Yes, and we're still looking, Mike, at $49,000 that we said, yes, we'll approve for that roof. So that's a big start. And during the meantime, we can do what I think Mr. Marcus wants to do, is really find out exactly what they need over there, how we're gonna do it, or what it should be done, or whatever. I just don't want to open the door and say, come in and do whatever you want to, we'll pay
Well,
for
that
it.
was in the packet. though.
I think we just shut down the process of moving forward on that.
Well, we had a vote on
The
both
packet
of them.
was pretty vivid in the problems that are there, so I think we were presented with the reality of what was needed there, so I think that's been done.
Well, we voted on what we was going to do.
Okay, Mr. Marcus.
So I think we're approaching it differently, but have the exact same goal in mind. And when it comes to investigating. See, I want to investigate, and of course, I don't agree with raising rates either, because ultimately they'll come back to our counties and we will definitely give them more money to make up for it. In the end, the taxpayer always pays. Is that not right? Yes. So what ends up happening is it just goes up line. The counties end up paying them more to make sure the services continue and they're not at no disruptions. But that aside, the problem I'm having is we have an idea what they want to do, where the areas of problems are. We have it in our jail in our county right now. We know the areas of problems. We just can't figure out how to get to the point where we can solve those problems without spending unnecessary monies. And in my case, I know projects happen around the state of Michigan that include other forms of funding and other ways of doing partnerships to get the funding, not just reaching the bank book. So my main issue is that we need to explore forms of funding that we can get through grants, through partnerships, that will result in a better opportunity for the banks to provide the monies. And everything else will fall into place.
Any
Really,
further-
discussion of long-term plans with Mansalona schools wouldn't preclude us from doing that.
Well, I know, you're right.
And that's
You're
done,
right.
so it's
But
over.
what my point was, is that conversation would insinuate that we already had the answer as far as how we're going to go about it. And he doesn't have the answers how we're going to go about it. He just has an idea that we might. Well, when you negotiate with somebody like that, they don't want no mights. They want to know, if you're going to do it, we'll do this. It's a simple conversation, and it doesn't seem like he'll come out of it with an answer that's beneficial to either party. That's the only point. That's the only reason why I felt that way. Eventually, it's going to happen, no doubt about it, but we need to know more before that conversation takes place.
I got a question. The rent, is that paid to the health department or the Northern Health Foundation?
Mr. Thrill.
I believe it's paid to the health department for those other entities to be in that space. So we have a lease with them, those other entities, subleasing basically. So we're renting from Northern Health Foundation, and that's like a sublease.
What's the pleasure of the board? We had one motion that was already defeated. Do we want to? Do we want to continue discussion on the Mansalona building?
Well, didn't we just have a motion made for the paying of the
Of the roof,
roof,
correct?
but we don't have anything else? Right.
I would like to revisit it next year.
Next year. Why not next month?
I don't think it's the time. I think building prices and contractors are high and busy. And I think next year is gonna be more favorable for doing
I wish I had that confidence. I think the problem didn't go away. The problem doesn't become less expensive. And I think it's risky to presume that something is gonna happen next year. I can't forecast tomorrow.
Ms. Powers?
I feel like we're beating a dead horse. We're not going to solve this problem tonight, nor should we solve this problem tonight. And we're talking about money. We need to talk further about that, and the time will come for that to happen. I agree with Jarvis.
Mr.
Can you
Pellery?
give me a date when it's gonna happen?
I'm sorry, what, Charlie?
I'm giving you a kind of a snarky comment, but can you give me a date when? that's
Again,
gonna-
I don't listen to snooky comments.
Well, the point I'm trying to make is that if you're gonna forecast the future, you're taking a big risk, and I can't forecast the future. And presuming that next year a good thing is gonna happen is really, it's impossible to do. I
We
Mr.
could, okay, we entertained a motion and we passed that motion to address the roof need. If you want to make a motion, Mr. McInnes, that we go forward with the office expansion, you can do so.
Well, not without having any sort of a funding mechanism, which was what the health officer was going to explore. I mean.
Well,
Question is,
that was what Mr. Chase was presenting to us as well. And I agree. First things first, we have to know if Mansalona Public Schools is interested.
Yeah, but we can't ask them.
yeah,
So that, I mean,
so we have a problem.
what's the,
Well, we could, no. Mr. Coons, we could. If we made a motion to proceed with expansion, we could include in that motion the clause that it's dependent upon financing, and then it's dependent upon Mansalona Public Schools authorizing that reversion change.
could we get some guidance from Mr. Thorell on this? Maybe, I don't know. You want
You want to weigh in, Dan? Go ahead.
to?
Well, I mean, the first motion or not the first, but the motion about the reaching out to Mansalona schools. I mean, I appreciate what Commissioner Marcus said about looking for other possibilities of funding or grants or anything, but I would like to know, I guess, before going down that road, if Mansalona schools, if they would be open to this. I mean, I think it's a pretty, we're not making any commitment. We're just asking the question, hey, if we were to put an addition on this building, would you be okay with letting us change the reversion from 2042 to 2052? I think it's pretty, I wouldn't want to invest a lot of time or effort into looking for grants or things like that unless I knew the answer to that question.
Does
Um,
he really need a motion for him to have that question? I mean, really, I don't even think you really need our permission to do that.
We just said no.
Honestly.
If he didn't need our
I know,
permission, we
but
just
I'm
took
like,
it away from him.
because it's an official position. I'm like, it's a simple conversation that can happen without no expectation of a result.
Well, yes and no. He can have that conversation with the superintendent. The superintendent has to go back to the school board, and then it becomes their agenda item whether or not it's even approved. Or whether or not they would even consider it, because the superintendent is not going to make a commitment there either. What's the pleasure of the board?
Next agenda item.
I don't think we've resolved it, Jared.
No, I don't
I
either.
think we didn't fix the problem that was brought forward. And I don't think waiting till next year is appropriate for the staff who are trying to deliver services in Mansalona.
Can I make just a suggestion really quick? I mean, could we bring you more information that would help you make this decision? You know, we can bring you some photographs of the interior of the building. We could have a Board of Health meeting there if you wanted to in the conference room, the next one. And we could look at it, see what it looks like.
I think, given that we're talking about spending over $300,000, that's probably an excellent idea. So I would entertain a motion to table this until we have an opportunity to visit the Mansalona facilities, perhaps have that Board of Health meeting there and have the further information that you're referring to.
Great idea.
Okay,
Is that the 6th?
I'll make that motion that we have our next Board of Health meeting at the
Next available.
Mansalona facility.
It may not be available.
Well, okay, assuming, Jennifer, that you make a phone call and we can have our Board of Health meeting there. I think we can. It's our building. I think we can make that.
Yeah. I think we just have to make sure that we have enough space and we can, hopefully IT can help us out there with,
Okay, so I'm making that
So-
motion that we have our next Board of Health meeting in the Mansalona facility so that we can further investigate expansion of the offices.
Is that September 6th?
Is that September
That's
sixth?
what's scheduled for, yes.
Good. I'll second your motion.
Been moved by me, seconded by Mr. McInnes. Any further discussion? Mr. Marcus,
In case it's not available, we should amend it to maybe it automatically reverts back to here until it isn't. So there's no question about where's it gonna be next. So we
good
know
idea.
If it's not gonna happen there, it's gonna be here. That's
Correct.
just so there's no
And
question.
it would have to be a special meeting to be held outside of Charlotte, correct?
no, because our bylaws allow us
Okay.
to make
To make a
changes
change.
to, yes.
Okay.
Okay. Move seconded, discussed, anything further? I don't think we're not spending any money, so I think we can just do a voice vote there, Jennifer. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. Item 7A is our RFP for legal services. Before we move on to that, does anybody need 5 minutes?
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm gonna put us in recess for, according to my watch, it is 6:03. Let's gather back here by 6:10, please.
Good.
Remember, I walk slow.
We won't start without you, Shirley, I promise.
That was an exercise.
Yeah, leather chairs.
Nobody.
6:12. 6:12 PM. We're going to call the meeting back to order. Thank you, Jennifer, for providing for the Board of Health some nourishment. Side note, Jennifer checked and the Mansalona facility is available on the date in question. We'll still leave the time at 4:30 PM. And I did suggest to Dan that perhaps the Mansalona Public Schools Superintendent wants to be in attendance for that meeting so that we might be able to further our discussion in that manner. Okay, item number 7A is our RFP for legal services. The Personnel and Finance Committee, you have a copy of the proposed RFP of counsel and legal services. It was amended briefly on page 2, section M. And so you should be looking at the copy that says on that particular page, page 2, section M, should read agency-wide decisions that have the potential to impact the Health Department, Board of Health members, or member counties. This was just voted on prior to this meeting by our Personnel and Finance Committee, pardon me, to recommend to the full board for adoption. Not for adoption, but for approval to put out this RFP.
Yeah.
So has everyone had an opportunity to review the document? The only change that's been made from the other draft is that section on page 2, section M that I just referred to. Other than that, you've had the opportunity to review this document. So is there a motion to approve this RFP for legal services?
So moved.
Moved by Ms.
Support.
Powers. Seconded by Mr. Rubing. Any further discussion? Any further changes you would like to make? Anything?
I'll just say that Dan Thorell was the one who obtained an original from a different health department and adapted to our use, and our committee had a very productive discussion, and we're unanimous in the belief that this is going to allow us to obtain really good legal services in a very orderly way, and I think really be beneficial.
Thank you, Mr. McInnes. I was present for part of the Personnel and Finance Committee, and you guys were all just getting along, and I like it. That's a good thing. Anything further from the board? Been moved and seconded to accept this RFP for counsel and legal services. Any further discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please, Jen?
Rubing,
Yes.
Marcus,
Yes.
Roloff,
Yes,
Hankins,
Yes.
McInnes,
Yes.
Coons,
Yes.
Pellerito,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Thank you. Item number 8, staff reports. Mr. Thorell, I'm going to ask you to be brief.
Yes, thank you. So we have our staff highlight, Jeremy Fruch, the Director of Environmental Health Services, is gonna give a overview of the food service program. And then we'll move on from there.
Mr. Fruit.
Let's see. Content will include food inspections, complaint investigations, plan review, food trucks, and updates and changes. The food service program is tasked with conducting inspections on food service establishments that serve food to the public for immediate consumption. Inspections are conducted using the 2009 FDA food code, and it's adopted by Michigan. In 2009, the food code In the 2009 food code, there are 3 tiers of violations. These comprise of priority, foundation, and core violations. A priority violation would be the most severe of the 3, and it needs to be corrected immediately or within 10 days. A core violation would be the least severe violation, and operators would have 90 days to correct these. For example, a priority violation would be where a restaurant employee, he doesn't wash his hands after touching raw meat. And then he proceeds to actually touch lettuce for a customer salad. That needs to be taken care of immediately. An example of a core violation, that would be, for instance, a broken tile in the kitchen floor. It's not necessarily a food safety hazard, but it could contribute to unsanitary conditions. If the tile isn't, if it's not taken, it could cause the, like the unsanitary conditions could result if it's not taken care of down the road. Also in the slide, I kind of put in there, 2017 food code adoption. This was supposed to be addressed in 2020, and the state was prepared to actually issue this, and adopt it. And what happened was the pandemic hit, and now it's been tabled ever since, and we're still awaiting any notice of if that's even going to happen. Routine inspections, with routine inspections, there are two routine inspections are required twice a year for full-scale restaurants. Once a year for low-risk seasonal facilities such as school, football, concession stands. Follow-up inspections, they're conducted when a priority foundation violation isn't able to be corrected immediately. For instance, if a dishwasher isn't sanitizing, that may require a repair person. So we would have to come back 10 days later and verify that, or whenever he fixed it. And another instance for a follow-up inspection would be if we had a repeat core violation that happened 3 times over the course of 3 inspections. On this slide, I listed a few items on here to show what an inspector now focuses on when they enter a facility. Obviously, I summarized this a little bit, but there was a shift in the last 15 to 20 years to focus on their food processes such as date marking, cooling, final cook temperatures, cold holding, and hot holding. In the past, violations that were written by food inspectors were usually tied to the physical facility itself, such as floors, walls, and ceilings. Now, in addition to reviewing and inspecting food processes, the food inspector is also tasked with making sure employees wash their hands, take the time to educate the managers, employees about food safety issues. And also the food inspector provides resources to make sure managers and employees are able to gain knowledge in food safety, such as certified manager courses, employee trainings, and basic food classes. This graph right here kind of represents it represents the number of routine inspections in the last 4 years. Routine inspections dropped dramatically in 2020 due to the pandemic. However, they also rose sharply in 2021. In 2021, we did have a surge in new facilities being licensed, and this in turn increased routine inspections. This slide, it actually shows a number of follow-up inspections in the past 4 years. I would attribute this decrease really to the limited menu items offered at restaurants now and supply chain issues with food. So think about it this way, if the food inventory is down and restaurant operators aren't able to fill their walk-in coolers, they actually have less food there, and the use by dates are they don't have much food going past the use by dates. Also, some facilities started closing for business on Mondays. And this actually helped some of the managers dedicate a day to cleaning.
So it really did help in some ways, cleaning the facilities, having, less business hours. We have actually two types of complaints. This is nuisance complaints. And the other is food board complaints. This is an example of kind of what would be, well, an example of a nuisance complaint would be, you know, a long strain hair in your food. The slide here shows a summarized flow diagram of how we process a nuisance complaint at the health department. The foodborne illness complaint is a little more involved than a nuisance complaint. In all honesty, when we receive a foodborne illness complaint, especially one considered to be an outbreak, the food staff, the EH director, medical director, the CD nurses, they usually drop everything to respond to this. This flow chart is, you know, it's really summarized. And in reality, some of these items are happening simultaneously. For instance, when sanitarians are completing GI forms, another sanitarian may already be on site investigating the facility. And time is critical in a foodborne investigation, as most calls are reactive and complaints are usually made a few days after the suspect food was eaten. And this graph kind of shows complaints in the past. Well, this graph shows the number of overall complaints, nuisance and foodborne. Again, with the decrease, I would attribute it to limited menu items restaurants offer since the pandemic. And again, more time to clean due to business hours being less. I put this data in here because it really explains the main purpose of doing a food inspection. It is reducing the number of foodborne illnesses. The data shown here is from WHO. It shows how many people are affected worldwide and the vulnerability to food poisoning to children. It's staggering to think that children under 5 represent close to 1/3 of deaths from food poisoning. Another item food sanitarians are tasked with is conducting plan reviews on new and remodeled restaurants and food trucks. The goal is to coordinate with the county's building department to ensure that the facilities have the foundation to store and serve food to the public. This graph shows the number of pre-opening inspections conducted over 4 years. Pre-opening inspections represent facilities that changed ownership or went under plan review. As you can see, we did have an increase in 2021. Food trucks in the last 5 to 7 years have become a popular way for aspiring food service owners to serve the public. The main reason food trucks have become popular is the plan review process is streamlined through the state. Fees are lower. There's not as much overhead expenses such as maintaining a building and paying property taxes. The two types of license for food truck. One is a special transitory food unit license. STFUs, they have all the essential equipment for food service and can go anywhere in the state. Mobile trucks, their license they're usually a bare bones truck. They have to return to the commissary every 24 hours, and most of the food is prepared at commissaries. This graph represents number of new food trucks licensed with HDNW over the course of 4 years. Food trucks were on the rise before the pandemic, and they really took off after. I believe the numbers would have been higher in 2020 if supply chains for trailers and equipment weren't an issue for people seeking a food truck. Temporary license. This allows a vendor to serve public for a short amount of time. It's really a good way for festivals and 1-day events to provide food to the public. Inspectors most often inspect temporaries during the weekends in the summer. HDNW provides 3 tiers of payment. That's for-profit, nonprofit, and low risk. These types of licenses are usually used for fundraising and nonprofit groups like the Lions Club that they serve their chicken lunches in the summer months. It could be a church organization or another nonprofit organization. As you can see in the slide, these the temporary food inspections were definitely dramatically affected by the pandemic. The lack of large events and festivals virtually eliminated temporary license applications in 2020. I did include 2022 in the chart, and these numbers are through August 1st. I would expect maybe 30 or 40 more for the fall events. So it appears that these are coming back up and getting close to 2018, 2019 levels again. And some updates and changes in the food program. First, I just wanted to take a moment to highlight one of my staff, Michelle Mapes. It says Michelle Delves on there, but she recently changed her name. She's our food coordinator, and she has been with the agency for over the last 20 years. She started working on licensing renewals 2 years ago for all the restaurants in all our four counties. She did an awesome job this year communicating with the office coordinators and restaurant owners and getting every food facility renew their license without any enforcement action. Since I've worked here, this has never happened, as we have always had to go out at least a handful of facilities to provide closure notices. Her and the office coordinators in each office worked hard to provide an efficient method in collecting food license renewals. That saved a lot of time and costs for HDNW. With that note, MDARD has set January 1st, 2023 as the new accreditation cycle. This means that we should see MDARD sometime in April 2024 for accreditation. In addition, some changes that our food team is looking forward to, providing a quarterly newsletter to keep communications open. Our food sanitarian, Rhiannon Palmerville, she's working on getting that out by the end of this week. And we're looking at providing educational materials and resources to our food operators to keep them up to date on any food safety issues. In addition, HDNW will start proctor and certified manager classes monthly. These will be offered in all county offices of food service operators. In the past, there's been a lack of classes that are offered for certified managers in Northern Michigan. I've had much feedback from the operators asking for resources closer, as some have to travel an hour or two away to get this required class. Therefore, offering this class will be beneficial to our community. And that concludes. Any questions?
Mr. Marcus.
Well, that last slide, I really appreciate that because I spent 18 years owning a business, and that was my biggest complaint, is having to go far away from my CertiSafe classes. And my last year of certification, I got a proctor to do it, and it was so much more convenient. So that's cool. Also, just a little point, the past practice of the health department when it comes to food inspections has always been a partnership rather than a looking for something that you're doing wrong to make you go out of business. And I always appreciate that. They come at you as a partner, and I used to be so frustrated and get nervous when inspectors come in, but after 18 years, I started to realize that they're actually benefiting you in so many ways, whether it be a chunk of cheese that may have broke a seal that got mold and you didn't notice it and they did. That helped you because you don't want a customer to see that.
Right.
So there's nothing worse than having that happen. So I hope you keep continuing that type of service because the business owners who are trying their best also appreciate the constructive criticism as well as the opportunity to solve or fix a minor what do you call it? Minor
Poor violation.
minor violation while you're in your car writing up the paperwork. when they come back in, it's fixed. It's okay, good. You're good to go. It's so minor. It shouldn't be something that puts people in a position of where they're worried about their license and paying the bill. So keep up the good work.
Mr. Rubin.
Yeah, just wondering, you had how many people were sick up there? Do you have how many people were sick in our area? Sicknesses?
No, I don't.
That slide, was that a worldwide slide or was that a
yes.
Michigan slide? Or
No, that was a worldwide. I said, yeah, I specified worldwide when I said that. Yeah.
so you don't know how our 4-county region, do you have a rough idea?
As far as a foodborne illness.
Yeah.
I couldn't give you, I couldn't give you that data.
I can tell you that I mean, this year so far, it's pretty low. I mean.
As far
we've-
as complaints, we've probably, I think,
Right.
yeah, one, but how many people have actually had foodborne illnesses? I don't know that answer.
Yeah, we rely on, getting the complaints in to do the investigation. I mean, and that's part of the problem with foodborne illnesses too, is like, there are so many that go unreported
Right.
that we don't even know about, right? But we did, last summer, we had a problem with norovirus outbreaks, which I reported on to the board last summer.
Yep.
Which
remember that.
yeah, which we had to deal with. And a lot of that, it's really not even something that the restaurant is doing, and you have an employee that's sick. And by the time you find out, they may have contaminated the food or things like that. And we have to deal with that. And a lot of that has to, excuse me. I need a drink of water. A lot of that is, a lot of community, education and working with the restaurant to make sure that they're following their protocols and working with our CD staff and Dr. Meyerson and just trying to work through those outbreaks as they happen. And everyone is different and they all present their own challenges. But I will, give kudos to our staff. We always, do an excellent job of working through those things. And, I just can't say enough about staff, stepping up when they have to and things of that nature.
Mr. Marcus.
Just a quick question. Does this board have the ability to change the parameters or the standards for water reporting rather than quarterly? I'm just wondering, we have any authority on that area?
For water?
Yeah, for communal water testings that we do, like my business, for example,
Oh,
sold coffee, therefore my water was tested and I had to pay quarterly for 4 times a year,
mhm.
18
Yeah.
years of perfect water testing scores, but still had to pay that $40
Yep.
some dollars a test. And I thought that was almost draconian to so many extents, especially when it never reached a certain standard where it became a problem. A lot of the small businesses are frustrated over that, paying quarterly for something they never had an issue with their well.
It's, that's, you had a type 2 well.
Yeah.
And that's, regular monitoring that's required by the Safe Drinking Water Act. And yeah, even though, I mean, you never had a problem, I think the idea of doing that is to catch a problem before it, makes somebody sick or, things of that nature. But that is something that's a state law, actually, that we follow, and we administer that program for the state here in Health Department Northwest. So, does that answer your question?
Yes,
Yeah. Okay.
because I wanted to change it if we did.
I don't think I think it's, from a monitoring standpoint, just ensuring people have safe water. I mean, I understand the concern about costs and things like that, but if you had, perfect test results all those years, I mean, that's great. That means, you have safe drinking water. And a lot of businesses, if they have like a positive on the back T and we find that out, then they have to go through this whole process of chlorinating the well and, notification and bottled water and things of that nature until it gets addressed. So I think it's a good track record that you had there. So I will say one thing about the newsletter. I won the contest for the name. It's called Tips and Salsa.
Don't quit your day job.
It was legit. Come on. I mean,
I like it.
Any other, any other? questions?
Anything else for Mr. Frug or Mr. Thorell on environmental health or on the food inspection program?
Thanks, Jeremy. I appreciate the presentation.
Yeah.
Very informative. So,
Dan, I'm gonna
in-
ask you, because we have
yes,
another
interest
guest
of
waiting
time.
in a closed session, I'm gonna ask you to if we have any, I guess I'm gonna ask you to move the annual report presentation to our next meeting.
can I say something really quick?
Sir,
I was just, basically going to say that I'm going to be giving the presentation at all the counties, Board of Commissioners meetings. So I don't need to, really even give a presentation to the board because you will all be there, to see those presentations, if that's okay with you.
that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay. And I give, you all received an electronic copy and
Right.
you have a printed copy that I handed out this evening. The amended fiscal year 2022 budget. We brought this to the Personnel and Finance Committee prior to this meeting. They voted to recommend approving the budget to the full board. I don't, if you would like us to present that at all, we can do that. Or if you want to take their recommendation or ask questions, Andrea Pierce, our interim CFO, is here to answer any questions you might have. We do have a memo that was provided with the board packet.
Yes. Does any board member have a question for either Dan or Andrea regarding the amended fiscal year 2022 budget? Or the revised amended budget? Mr. Rubin,
Yeah, just so the rest of the board knows, I did ask the question about what was included in the miscellaneous expenses since it's over $1 million. And there were 3 or 4 things, and next year they're gonna line item a bunch of those things out so that it's clearer for us. But that's all I was gonna.
okay, thank you. Anything else from the board? You need a motion to approve this amended budget, is that correct? Dan?
That is correct. And then we will be bringing the initial fiscal year 23 budget to the next Board of Health meeting.
Yay. Budgets are always the most fun part of this
Mhm.
county commission job.
Move that the board accept the recommendation from the Personnel and Finance Committee and adopt the budget as revised by staff.
Thank you, Mr. McInnes. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Mr. Pallarito. It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none. Jennifer, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
Coons.
Yeah.
Pallarito,
Yes.
Powers, Rubing,
Yes.
Marcus,
Yes.
Roloff,
Yes,
Hankins.
Yes. And then the CFO update, Dan.
Yeah. Very happy to report that we have hired a chief financial and administrative officer after interviewing qualified candidates. Shannon Klonowski will be joining the HD&W team beginning August 29th. Shannon is currently the Assistant Commissioner and CFO for the Tennessee Department of Agriculture. We did 2 virtual interviews with her and then actually had her come in person to meet with administration and the finance team. And we were all very impressed with her throughout that whole process. And she's actually a native of Charlevoix and a native of Charlevoix County. Just looking to come back home and raise her young children. And, we think she's going to be a great asset. Her skill set and leadership style fits perfectly within our organization and just really looking forward to her expertise and guidance moving forward.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Good.
Great.
Well done. Okay, we have other written reports submitted by each of the department heads. Many of those department heads are present. Does anyone from the board have any questions regarding the written report submitted?
I don't
Mr. McKinney.
have any questions, but I would like, at a future session where we highlight a staff department to learn more about the dental program, that brand new, dental, kindergarten program. That just sounds terrific. That's just my. suggestion.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah,
would
that's a
really
great
appreciate
idea.
that.
I did have a question on that. It says approximately 1,000 students. How many per county, or is it based on schools in the county, or?
Yeah, it would be. It would be based on all of the schools that in each of the counties that have kindergartners, basically. So they added them all up and that's roughly 1,000.
And is it just at the beginning of the school year? Every school is invited to do it, or are they required to do it, or what's?
Nope, every school's invited to do it, and this is a law for the state of Michigan now. So just like we go in and do our hearing and vision screenings, we'll also be doing an oral health assessment at that time. So really is to catch children who maybe haven't been to the dentist yet and they're entering kindergarten, do a quick oral assessment and then get them connected with a dental home if they don't have one.
Thank you, Holly.
Yep.
Anybody else? Anyone else from the board have any questions for any of our department heads? We appreciate your patience and I know how fun these meetings are, so thanks for sticking around with us. Hearing none, we're going to move to item number 9, which is a closed session pursuant to MCL 15.268H to discuss attorney-client privileged written legal opinion. We have a motion to go into closed session
Make a motion.
made by Ms. Roloff,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Pallarito.
Who will be present for that? closed
I
session?
would invite Mr. Thorell as our interim health officer and Ms. Kenny as our record taker and all members of the board. We will be meeting via Zoom with our legal counsel. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, can we have a roll call vote, please, Jennifer?
Rubing,
No.
Marcus.
Yeah.
Roloff,
Yes.
Hinkins,
Yes.
McGinnis,
Yes.
Coons.
Yeah.
Calorito,
Yes.
Powers.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is 6:45. We are going into closed session with our attorney. We will reopen the meeting when we're done. We're in open session. It is 7:33 PM. We are back in open session. I have a motion to read. There's been a demand by Lisa Peacock through her attorney for payment of $5,893.32. Ms. Peacock claims that this amount represents the difference between what she was paid for her PTO time based on the health department's paid time off policy, section 19.6 of the personnel policy adopted by the Board of Health on December 11th, 2018, and a payout of 100% of her accrued PTO. The parties disagree on the meaning of full payout as stated in the settlement agreement and release dated April 26th, 2022. The Health Department and Board of Health are not willing to waive or vary from the specific provisions of the paid time off policy regarding PTO payout, which for more than 15 years has been consistently enforced based on years of employment table set forth therein. However, it is in the best interest of the Health Department to avoid the expense associated with litigation and resolve any further alleged dispute regarding this matter to achieve a full and final resolution to this matter. I move that we accept the opinion and recommendation of our counsel, and the board authorizes our counsel to proceed consistent with her recommendation. Seconded by Mr. Coons, moved by myself, seconded by Mr. Coons. Roll call vote, please, Jennifer.
Rubing,
No.
Marcus,
No.
Roloff,
Yes.
Hinkins,
Yes.
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 No,
Motion passes 5-3.
Something real quick.
Mhm.
Is all right?
Uh, Remembering the advice of counsel, yes, Mr. Marcus.
Yes. I believe that policies such as that, PTO policies are important to be remain intact. And by doing so, we water down that policy and invite anybody who parts ways with this board, with this health organization to do the exact same thing.
Thank you. Item number 10 on our agenda is committee reports.
I make a motion for the finance committee, that the finance committee met and recommends approval of the July bills in the amount of $594,162.85. And the July employee expenses of $18,716.39.
There a second?
A second.
Moved by Mr. McInnes, seconded by Ms. Roloff. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote, please, Jennifer.
Powers,
yes,
Pallarito,
Yes.
Coons, McGinnis,
Yep.
Hankins,
Yes.
Roloff,
Yes.
Marcus,
Yes.
Rubing.
Thank you. Anything further from Program and Evaluation Committee? We're meeting August 15th, was it?
Yeah.
August 15th at the Health Department building at 4:30. 8:15, 22, 4:30 PM at HDNW, and we are resuming bylaws review there.
Hey, if I could,
Sir.
with regard to the personnel and finance, we met this afternoon, which was kind of efficient. And we've got to set up another meeting eventually. And I'm wondering how the other members of that committee feel about doing the same thing next time. Now it's gonna be down in Mansalona.
Right, that's the only concern. Well, we have this, do we have enough space to bring down more people to? That's all.
You mean for the regular
For
Board of
the,
Health meeting or?
no, for the personnel and finance, the CFO.
Yeah, I believe we would be okay with,
Okay,
because I mean, it's typically, there's less of us for those meetings and then we,
right.
right, go into the bigger.
thought
She'd be
meetings.
available or,
I don't know about the availability at
Maybe we
3
could-
because
o'clock.
that's what we hinge, the next point would be hinging on, working with her
Did you?
to draft
the
that.
availability?
Maybe it's too soon. Okay, I was just.
It would work perfect if we could. Yeah.
So Jen just said that it's available all day,
Okay.
that she
Well, then
noticed.
Let's leave
So
it to you then, if, when the new CFO comes in, because we were gonna have her meet with us in
Yeah.
conjunction with the purchase.
Let's plan on it and let us know if that does not work. For her,
Okay,
or
okay.
that she's not available or whatever, that
okay,
at 3 o'clock on that day
Yeah, that'd
to
be
start for the committee meeting would be good.
3 o'clock. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see a problem with that.
Thanks. Excuse me, I just want to get that done.
No, that's fine. Public comment, ladies, you've been very patient. Ms. Calbita.
Hi, I'm Brenda Colbita from Emmett County. And again, I would like to donate my time to Mary Moore. I could get your permission to do so.
That's fine. Ms. Moore, you'll have 6 minutes total. Property plan.
I can, sir.
So Mary Moore, Emmett County. And I apologize to those of you that heard this little talk already, but I am going to give it one more time. Maybe it'll be a little better this time. My main message to you has to do with hiring the new health officer. Your hiring decision, whether and when to hire the next health officer, could not be more important. Personnel is policy. In essence, given our past experience, you are hiring a dictator. Please make him or her a benevolent dictator. As we found with COVID, we're hiring somebody who can, under the current law, unilaterally declare a health emergency or imminent danger, and then unilaterally change the rule of law for 4 counties for an unlimited period of time, and then unilaterally enforce his or her dictates with police power, where the only check or balance, as we found on this system, is for the Board of Health to fire this person or encourage their resignation and then pay them $250,000 or more as they walk out the door. This is not a great system, not a great check and balance, but it is our reality and we need to face it squarely. I want you to please consider all of the power that the public health complex, and I'm talking about federal, state, and local branches of public health, maybe even the WHO, the world, worldwide, all of the power that the public health complex claims to exercise here in the US under the umbrella of social determinants of health. According to the CDC website, the social determinants of health and thus the potential jurisdiction of our health department include access to healthcare and to insurance, education in general, civic participation and community cohesion, discrimination, employment and workplace conditions, poverty, food security, housing quality and stability, access to transportation, air and water quality, crime, violence, and incarceration. You may be aware that gun violence, racism, and I believe climate change have all been described or proposed as health emergencies by other health officials around the country. Anyway, that umbrella is even going to expand more. The up and coming Public Health 3.0 paradigm, which has been discussed within this health department, claims jurisdiction over anything at all that happens to affect health. Can you think of anything that you do in your life that doesn't affect health? I truly can't. Practically speaking, how would this vast power play out? Because of COVID, we know how it plays out, and we must never forget. The public health complex can shut down our schools and businesses and limit our cash, which in our case this time around with COVID resulted in a large transfer of wealth from poor and middle-class people to rich tech titans. They can limit our travel, our worship, our funerals, and our graduations, and our ability to visit our sick and our dying loved ones. They can destroy our personal doctor-patient relationships by denying our doctors the ability to write a vaccine and mask waivers, and by significantly limiting treatment options available for a brand new disease. They can intimidate our pharmacists into refusing to fill our own doctor's prescriptions. They can limit the medications that doctors can prescribe. And I'm talking about taking off the table approved medications with better safety profiles than Tylenol. And they do this both for doctors who are working both in and out of the hospitals. They can coerce us and our children to take an experimental vaccine without informed consent, which can cause injury, increase all-cause mortality, and has failed spectacularly to prevent transmission and illness. They can coerce us all to wear masks, which again, the real science says are not very useful in stopping the spread. They censor scientific speech, even by highly credentialed doctors and experts. It's now well known that Dr. Fauci ordered the smearing and silencing of Stanford, Harvard, and Oxford medical experts. They are revoking the medical licenses of doctors who successfully treat COVID patients so that doctors and patients will live in fear and take multiple vaccines, which in turn enriches and empowers both Big Pharma and the public health complex who have joined forces. If you doubt me on this, on the corruption within Big Pharma, I encourage you all to read The Real Anthony Fauci by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's an intimidating book to look at it, narrow margins, lots of footnotes, small print, but it reads very, very well. You'll want to read it once you start, and it's heavily footnoted. And it's notable, I think, that nobody has debunked this book. Nobody in the year that it's been out has come out and said that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is telling lies. Okay, last but not least, I think the public health complex has shown that it spreads disinformation. You'll recall that Dr. Fauci and the CDC director, Rochelle Walensky, both assured us that if people took the vaccines, they would not get COVID. All of the recent high-profile people who have gotten COVID have proven that this was incorrect at the time that it was said. So to sum up why I'm here, under the current law, the person that you hire to lead this health department will have dictatorial police power. Since most of this department's $30 million budget comes from federal and
30
state.
seconds.
public health complex. The new health officer needs to have a strong backbone and strong leadership qualities to lead this department in a direction that is independent of the corrupt HHS organizations and instead look out for the genuine health and well-being of Northern Michigan communities. Please reach out to the Florida Surgeon General and to the Hillsdale Academy for Science and Freedom to look for guidance and or the person that you would hire. Thank you very much. Or guidance for that person is what I'm trying to say. Perhaps if it's Dan.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thanks.
Any further public comment? Hearing none. Item number 12 is Commissioner's update. Mr. Rubin,
I don't think I have anything.
thank you. Mr. Coombs. Mr. McInnes.
Nothing.
Ms. Roloff,
No.
Ms. Powers,
I'm sorry. No.
Mr. Palladino,
No, sir.
Mr. Marcus. I have nothing. Thank you. I will take a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thank you.